You hear all the time that someone is going to file for an abandonment when one spouse has moved out while the other one is still there. So, what does it mean to file for abandonment? So, first off, abandonment generally is not what you're thinking about. It's not the thing that you think it is. Okay, so if your spouse has moved out, you may not know how to proceed. A spouse moving out and moving to another place, or you may not even know where they are. It's emotional and it's tough. Um, and so in Alabama, what is abandonment? The answer to that is are a no fault divorce, which is nobody's fault, incompatibility of temperament between the two of you, or there's a fault divorce. So let's say, such as adultery would be one of those, or domestic violence. The third is abandonment. You can file for a fault ground of abandonment in Alabama, and that's got to be purely voluntary. If someone has moved out, the spouse has moved out for 1 year or more from the time that you file for divorce, you can then use uh, the fault ground of abandonment. So, what does that even mean? So let's go into more detail. An example of abandonment would be if someone had left the house, moved out, and was not supporting the household financially. That they had moved to Los Angeles and were no longer paying any of the bills. They had moved to their mother's house and were no longer helping with taking care of the children. If you reach the 1 year mark, then that is abandonment. So let's assume that you can reach that 1 year mark. What does that even mean? How is that going to affect the divorce? With it being a fault ground, the court can award extra money and or extra distributions through alimony or a property settlement when divvying up property. So let's say that they moved out for 1 year or more and you had been paying the house, maintaining the house, getting the grass cut, paying for the house insurance, paying for the mortgage. Well, at that point, the court might, when they sell the house, might give you 70% and then 30%. Another would be, well, they might, to make up, let's say that you don't necessarily have um, a huge asset like a house. Well, they could make up for the time that you were supporting the household by yourself by awarding you alimony, awarding you more alimony would be one way. The next question would be, how does this abandonment affect child custody? And the fault ground is not going to necessarily be relevant to child custody. However, it would be if they have left and not taken care of the kids for 1 year, it probably is not in the best interest of the child for them to have custody. So for more questions, reach out to me.